Eleanor Cole stepped into the opulent hall, the dim glow of crystal chandeliers casting a gentle light on glossy marble floors. Her worn cardigan and well-loved jeans contrasted sharply with the elegant attire that filled the room. Her sneakers made a soft squeak on the polished surface, a sound barely noticeable to her amid the soft hum of refined chatter and the focused silence of competing chess minds. The air smelled faintly of leather and polished wood, remnants from the elegant chessboards and vintage clocks perched on each table. The grandeur of it all was intimidating. Eleanor's heart quickened with every step. Yet, she held her head high, inhaling deeply to steady her nerves. She was not unfamiliar with such spaces, though it had been years since she'd mingled in them. Today, she was here as more than an observer, and she intended to make the most of this opportunity. Her entrance did not go unnoticed. Glances, sharp and dismissive, flitted her way. Beside an ornate centerpiece, a group of well-dressed guests chuckled, their eyes betraying them as they whispered behind manicured hands. "Looks like someone wandered off the streets," one mused to the others, drawing muffled laughter. As Eleanor surveyed the room, the event manager, a tall, poised woman with frosty curls and a tight smile, pinned her with scrutinizing eyes. She took in Eleanor's simple shoes and the modest chess set she carried, making quick judgments without a word. Near the main doors, a couple of rival players exchanged amused glances and decided to entertain themselves. "Lost, are we?" one called out, loud enough for others to hear. "You looking to clean the pieces or try your luck at playing?" Their words dripped with derision, drawing amused looks from those nearby. Eleanor's resolve remained firm, but the sting of their mockery lingered. The event manager, with her sharp gaze never shifting from Eleanor, briskly walked over, the click of her sleek heels echoing softly in the stately room. Her practiced smile was tight, devoid of warmth as she addressed Eleanor. "May I help you?" she asked, with the thinly veiled implication that help was certainly what Eleanor needed. Eleanor offered a polite nod, summoning every ounce of her calm exterior. "I'm here for the championship," she replied, trying to infuse her voice with confidence despite the attention they were garnering from nearby tables. The manager's eyes squinted ever so slightly, her smile turning into a scrutinizing assessment. "Oh. Are you sure you belong on this side of the ropes?" Her voice was smooth, the question sounding almost conciliatory, but everyone within earshot understood the derision embedded in her words. Eleanor's cheeks flushed, but she held the manager's gaze. "Yes, I am indeed here to enjoy and potentially participate in the tournament," she articulated clearly, though she could feel the weight of eyes upon her, relishing the spectacle. Laughter, scattered yet pointed, began to bubble up from a few surrounding observers. Near the entrance, the same rival players who had mocked her earlier were now openly observing the exchange with unabashed amusement. "Look, she thinks she can just sign up and play," one of them snickered, elbowing his companion. The manager's smile slipped into a thin line as she addressed Eleanor in a tone meant to carry. "I'm sorry, but entrance is reserved for those with proper registration and known reputation. We have a standard to maintain." Her words were smooth, excellently crafted to dissuade anyone from believing there was any room for negotiation. Eleanor's heart sank, but she refused to let her resolve crumble completely. "I understand the importance of standards," she replied, her voice steady, "but I believe everyone should have the opportunity to engage and inspire." "Engage, inspire?" the manager repeated, practically dripping the words with incredulity. She raised her voice, addressing nobody in particular but making sure everyone within earshot could hear. "Ladies and gentlemen, we apologize for this interruption. Our games are for serious players only." A ripple of laughter and nods of agreement spread through the crowd. The mockery was sharp, a clear message that Eleanor did not belong. Cameras from phones around her discreetly captured the moment, a digital echo of her public dismissal. Through it all, Eleanor stood her ground, though her calm was wearing thin under the heat of embarrassment and the sting of public humiliation. Her simple outfit, so stark against the glamorous backdrop, became a brand of unworthiness in the eyes around her. The manager's unrelenting stare did not waver, a clear signal that Eleanor's presence was not just unexpected, but unwelcome. "Please, follow me," the manager instructed flatly, gesturing toward a side hallway with no intention of allowing Eleanor to linger any longer in the prestigious main hall. Eleanor obliged, maintaining as much dignity as she could muster, following the manager past tables and players who momentarily paused their cerebral duels to witness this unprecedented breach of their insular world. Shuffling past them, Eleanor felt every whisper as a personal jab, every glance a telling sneer that branded her an outsider. The manager led her into a stark, sparsely furnished waiting room tucked away from the clamor and sophistication of the main space. The room bore cheap plastic chairs and a battered, incomplete chess set left on a corner table. With a curt nod, the manager left her there without a word, the door clicking shut in a sound that echoed solitude. Left to the silence, Eleanor was overcome with a sense of isolation, her earlier embarrassment morphing into a resilience she clung to desperately. She stared down at the rickety chess set, half the pieces mismatched, the king chipped, and for a moment, she allowed herself to feel the weight of the situation. Yet, anger simmered beneath her skin, setting her resolve anew. Peer through the glass door, Eleanor watched the room she was barred from. The chess sets, polished and pristine, sat majestically on custom tables where contestants focused intently, oblivious or indifferent to the drama that had momentarily unfolded. She realized with a pang that despite the crude reception, the game itself, the chess, remained unchanged, its beauty unwavering. Back in the main hall, as the incident settled, the manager returned to her routine, regaling the tale of an attempted imposter to a select group of associates, seeking reinforcement of the exclusivity she believed she was protecting. Her colleagues laughed along, their camaraderie steeped in a shared notion of elitism. Meanwhile, Eleanor composed herself, refusing to let bitter tears surface. She fought against the sense of defeat clawing at her, drawing strength from the worn grooves of her personal chess set she had tucked away in her bag. Confidence bruised, she sat back and replayed in her mind opening sequences and strategies, all the while nurturing the flicker of defiance that refused to sputter out. Then, amidst her solitude, Eleanor took solace in the stillness, internally strategizing her next move, not on the board, but within herself, and reaffirming her reason for being there. For Eleanor Cole was not just seeking participation, she was there to reclaim a passion, to echo a legacy she had once embraced with love and fervor. Unbeknownst to those in the regal hall, the real game was only just beginning. Back in the bustle of the main tournament hall, the event manager, satisfied with her resolution of the Eleanor incident, returned to her duties with a sense of smug superiority. As she moved about, directing staff and ushering VIP attendees into position, she regaled her colleagues with her tale of efficiently protecting the event from what she perceived as a drop in standards. "Can you believe she thought she could just walk in?" she recounted, her words slick with self-congratulation. The small cluster of colleagues around her nodded in agreement, chuckling at Eleanor's audacity. "We can't have people just waltzing in thinking they belong here without proper credentials," she continued, feeling the reinforcement of her authority as her colleagues murmured in approval. To the manager and her circle, maintaining the aura of elitism was paramount, necessary to uphold the reputation they felt proud to be gatekeepers of. Meanwhile, the tension melted back into customary rhythms of quiet calculation and the methodical click of chess pieces echoing around the hall. Players, once distracted by the commotion, resumed their focus, pouring undivided attention into the myriad of ongoing matches. Yet, beyond the immediate reversal to normalcy, there was an undercurrent of unease. A few noticed furtive glances toward the hallway where Eleanor had been led. While many had laughed and booed, some couldn't entirely shake the feeling that maybe, just maybe, they'd been too harsh. In her isolation, Eleanor sought solace in the small, chipped chess pieces within her grasp, recalling days filled with competitive play and storied victories. Recollections of pupils once under her tutelage, voices admiring yet respectful, echoed in her thoughts, rekindling her subdued spirit. She built castles on her little board, each move purposeful, refueling her determination amid quiet reflection. Just then, an unexpected interruption disturbed the rhythm of the championship proceedings. The Grandmaster, a respected, serene figure revered across global chess circuits, stepped through the main hall. His entrance caused a wave of attention to scatter over to his direction. Heads turned as whispers of speculation drifted through the audience like ghostly currents. The Grandmaster, with his silver hair glinting under the chandelier lights and his gaze intent yet unfathomable, scanned the room with discerning eyes that finally rested on the event manager. His demeanor was unflustered, and while his presence was unassuming, his authority was undeniable. Peering around the room, he asked evenly, "I'm looking for Eleanor Cole." The manager's face, usually composed, twitched slightly in surprise. Confusion flashed in her eyes, and she shot an uncertain glance at her colleagues beside her, who were equally baffled. Eleanor Cole," she repeated, searching the Grandmaster's face for any clue as to his purpose. "Yes, Eleanor Cole," the Grandmaster reiterated calmly. His voice carried effortlessly across the room, a timbre of respect embedded in his words. "I understand she's here. I'd like to speak with her." A hushed silence settled over the hall as participants and onlookers searched their mental archives for any memory of that name. The room was abuzz with sudden curiosity. Even those who were silently skeptical could sense something unusual was unfolding, a deepening mystery as to who Eleanor truly was. Managing a strained smile, the manager gestured faintly toward the side room Eleanor had been shown to. She's just through here," she stammered, attempting to maintain an aura of professional poise while her heart wrestled with increasing discomfort. The Grandmaster nodded in acknowledgement, and as if sensing the weight of the moment, an assistant discreetly approached with a nondescript box tucked securely beneath his arm. The assistant unfolded a letter and, with a deferential nod to the Grandmaster, announced that Eleanor Cole had been personally invited back to the main hall. Those gathered watched on, transfixed by the surreal turn of events. Eleanor, initially disregarded and dismissed, suddenly became the focal point of curiosity, a connection unfathomable to most. Slowly, the realization percolated through the audience that things were not as they seemed. Conversation stilled, the buzz of ridicule replaced by anticipatory silence. Back in the secluded room, the aura was no longer confined by ridicule but charged with expectation. As she closed a triumphant game in complete privacy, Eleanor became aware of gentle rapping against the doorframe. She looked up to see the Grandmaster, someone she hadn't seen in years yet regarded as an old friend and colleague in the art of chess. His eyes, filled with warmth and recognition, silently communicated what words necessarily delayed. Eleanor rose slowly, a soft smile spreading across her face as the gravity of the situation sunk in. Silently, the assistant handed her the engraved chess set nestled in its box, a testament to her contributions, enduring legacy, and unyielding passion for the game she had given so much of herself to. Murmurs swept through the main hall like quicksilver the moment Eleanor emerged again, this time flanked by the Grandmaster, her modest wardrobe forgotten amidst the escalating intrigue surrounding her true identity. The air tingled with curiosity, spectators leaning forward to gain as much sight of this unfolding drama. As Eleanor and the Grandmaster moved side by side, a palpable tension coursed through the hall, a sleek buzz of realization replacing skepticism with an evolving regard. Everything within this little bubble of reality had shifted in mere minutes. The past judgment of attendees yielded starkly toward self-questioning regret and unexpected respect. Something powerful was about to be revealed, and in that moment, as Eleanor prepared to take her rightful place among champions, it was understood, a truth once obscured was on the cusp of redefining their world and the presumptions they held dear. The air in the grand tournament hall crackled with anticipation as Eleanor Cole stepped into the limelight, each step accompanied by the soft swish of her worn attire against the polished floors. The whispering crowd fixated on her, attention no longer dismissive but keen with curiosity. Eleanor, her carriage composed, walked side by side with the Grandmaster, who introduced her with a grave, yet respectful demeanor that commanded silence. "Ladies and gentlemen," he began, his voice rich and resonant, carrying easily across the room. "I have the honor of introducing you to Eleanor Cole, a distinguished mentor, a trailblazer in the world of chess, and someone to whom I owe much of my own success." A collective gasp fluttered through the crowd like the breeze rustling autumn leaves. Faces that had openly judged Eleanor only moments ago now froze in disbelief, the realization rendering them stilled and wide-eyed. Eleanor stood poised at the center, enveloped by the Grandmaster's accolades as he continued, his narrative unfolding like a revelation. Eleanor guided me and many others through our journeys in chess, instilling the discipline and insights that have shaped generations of players worldwide. The mention of her role in shaping chess champions landed with an electrifying impact. Phones slipped unnoticed from hands, focus arrested by the gravity of her identity. The disdain and mockery that had infected the room moments prior evaporated, replaced instead by a burgeoning respect and frantic whispers of recognition. The event manager, still stationed to one side, stared on, a look of sheer mortification crossing her features. Her earlier dismissive words now echoed hollow and regrettable, her cheeks flushed with shame as the enormity of her misstep closed in around her. With time, the Grandmaster concluded, Eleanor chose a life dedicated to fostering mastery away from the public spotlight, yet her influence remains vibrant and vital. He nodded to her with heartfelt respect before stepping back, ceding the floor to Eleanor. Eleanor looked around, her quiet composure never faltering. Her steady gaze swept the hall, taking in both the familiar faces from the past and those unknown ones whose skepticism had been effortlessly quelled. She could feel the palpable shift in atmosphere, the air tinged now with reverence and awe rather than disdain. She addressed the room with a smile that was warm and genuine, her voice melodious and calm. "Thank you for your kind words," she began, nodding gratefully to the Grandmaster. "I am honored to be among you today." The audience, now mesmerized, hung on every word, drawn into the unfolding story. "I chose to dress simply, not as a statement against decorum, but as a personal choice that aligns with my focus on what truly matters, the purity of chess, of strategy, and of the minds who engage in its complexity," Eleanor continued. In her words, she did not need to highlight the clashing ideologies of appearance over substance that had culminated earlier. Her presence, her history, and her undeniable aura of expertise brought that truth vividly to life. "My wardrobe," she explained with a lightness that belied depth, "was a choice that allowed me freedom, reminiscent of years spent dedicated to the game, to development, and to those I've had the privilege to coach." There was a weighty pause as Eleanor's story touched chords with the audience. This room, this realm of champions, was now recognized as more than a mere competition. It was a testament to relentless dedication and devotion manifest in someone who had lived its truest tenets. Guests shuffled, shifting their postures from skeptical to supplicants eager to reconcile the Eleanor wronged moments ago with this mentor praised publicly, an inspiration who had quietly helped sculpt their cherished sport from the shadows. The room erupted in applause, an authentic acknowledgement of Eleanor's contribution and unwavering humility. Loud and genuine, it superseded earlier mockery, transforming prior skepticism into awestruck acceptance. Each clap spoke new volumes of respect, acknowledging a woman who needed not the trappings of fame to command loyalty and admiration. Eleanor joined them respectfully in this celebration of the game she loved, silent yet demonstrative in her grace, her spirit shaping waves across the chess world once more. As the clapping swelled, the Grandmaster stood to her side, a visible ally and testament to her narrative woven through every attending heart. The reality was undeniable. Eleanor Cole, with her plain attire and unassuming demeanor, embodied the values and dedication that surpassed superficial pretenses. Her resolve, unaffected by ridicule, had shifted perceptions across the event floor. At that precise moment, the event manager's regret was plain, her earlier posture of authoritative judgment now a testament to folly in the wake of Eleanor's unveiled significance. As Eleanor re-engaged the chess community, not through force but evident wisdom honed in sincerity and expertise, a powerful reflection loomed over the attendees. She did not harbor resentment or surface triumph over those who disdained her. Instead, Eleanor embraced humanity in all its facets, undeterred by assumptions or premature folly. Her elegance was unspoken, global and resonant through simple gestures embracing core truths fundamental to greater pursuits. And so, within this undeniable revelation, an unassuming and humble Eleanor Cole emerged as more than an esteemed figure from chess's past. She was a modern embodiment of persistence and integrity, forever shifting perceptions one powerful revelation at a time. In the aftermath of Eleanor's public unveiling, an immediate ripple of consequences began to unfurl across the championship hall. The atmosphere, now crackling with newfound respect and reconsideration, marked a significant transformation from the earlier tones of doubt and derision. As the applause subsided, the Grandmaster took a moment to address the broader assembly, his voice once again commanding attention. "We are privileged to learn from our interactions, positive or otherwise," he began, his words deliberate. "It is moments like these that remind us of the core tenets of humility and the respect our game commands beyond mere appearances." He cast a meaningful glance at the event manager, who stood off to the side, her face a mixture of mortification and penance. Her earlier confidence had been stripped away, replaced by a dawning understanding of the gravity of her actions. The crowd's gaze followed the Grandmaster's, and slowly, whispers began circulating, fingers pointing, heads shaking, a collective acknowledgement of her miscalculation. Eleanor remained composed through it all, observing the changing tides with her usual grace. Her gaze briefly met the manager's, who seemed to shrink beneath the weight of her misjudgment, the enormity of her public error crashing down upon her like a tidal wave. Recognizing the knot of tension wound around the manager's reputation and her role today, the Grandmaster did not linger further on the reprimand but nodded toward the main exit, signaling a temporary adjournment to recalibrate the hall's proceedings. As the guests began to disperse for a quick recess, the Grandmaster approached Eleanor, speaking softly. "Thank you for your patience and generosity, Eleanor. Your presence here is more vital than you might ever realize." Eleanor thanked him with a warm smile, each interaction stitched with mutual respect ripened through history shared. "The core contributions perpetuate beyond our assumptions," she reflected, "only by sharing courage within our narratives do we reforge the bonds that bind community." Meanwhile, in the now less crowded space, the event manager lingered near the edge of the room, contemplating the hard lesson in humility she had just experienced. Her previous role in the social hierarchy now felt unsteady, and her mind swirled with thoughts on how she might reassert herself within the changing dynamics. Her shame was palpable as she looked once more toward Eleanor. Just then, members of the crowd began reconvening, buzzing among themselves with conversations turned noble, narratives shifting now toward Eleanor's impact and contributions. Amid the rejuvenated gathering, the event was unmistakably altered. Conversations turned not just about chess strategy but the implicit understandings of compassion and wisdom Eleanor embodied. Her impressive resume became the focal point of discourse, reverberating throughout the scholarly and corporate attendees. A few bolder curious onlookers, those who had previously mocked, now mustered the courage to approach Eleanor. With cautious sincerity, they extended apologies, their initial incredulity replaced by unassuming admiration. Eleanor accepted each interaction with characteristic humility, not displaying any reproof for past slights, only genuine engagement in their newfound interest in her work and legacy. As the matches resumed, Eleanor quietly found herself an unassuming observer among champions she had once coached. The Grandmaster, honoring her presence, proposed an impromptu speech dedicated to how Eleanor's lessons had emboldened countless achievements. Seizing the narrative, speakers paid reverence to narratives steeped in respect, turning what began as a championship into an opportunity to extol lessons championed by Eleanor's understated foresight. The rivalry that had once witnessed acrimonious attitudes now pivoted to shared engagement far beyond the game. The acknowledgement of oversight became intrinsic among those who partook, learning through both adversity and friendship cultivated anew. Meanwhile, as matches neared their resolutions, the event culminated in another ceremonial opportunity to honor legacies. Acknowledging those inadvertently illumined by Eleanor's open guidance, more practitioners and participants found themselves persuaded not just to win but to adopt enthralling principles discovered through Eleanor's principles. Eventually, while final games unraveled, the event manager found herself crossing paths with Eleanor again, this time in a quiet corridor. Emotions colliding within her fortresses of reserve, she paused, looking uncertain but earnest. "Miss Cole, she began, the words fumbling past her lips with an uncertain edge. Eleanor met her gaze steadily, her expression gentle. Yes, she replied, her tone open and inviting dialogue. I owe you an apology, the manager confessed, her voice thick with regret. I misjudged you, completely. My actions were thoughtless, and I am deeply sorry for how things unfolded. Eleanor considered the sincerity behind the manager's words, acknowledging the challenges imbued within growth and the acceptance of wrongdoing. We all are learning continually, Eleanor offered, her voice a balm. Every aspect enriches our understanding and reinforces what we hold dear. The manager nodded, humbled but grateful for the elegant way Eleanor received her gesture. Thank you, she said, her contrition sincere and her posture indicative of the promise of remembered values reforged anew. As the day wound to a close, attendees departed carrying stories and inspiration awakened by Eleanor's undiminished presence. Her journey refreshed perspectives over pathways to excellence achieved through empathetic endeavors far greater than facades ever reflected. Left with memories resoundingly deepened, attendees knew that the presence of an unadorned woman, embodying abundance in essence, echoed healing resonance, hallmarks reshaped forevermore. As she walked away from the venue, Eleanor carried with her the legacy reaffirmed, resilience forged in chess's strategic embrace, weaving harmony transcendable beyond measure. Behind her unfurling path, wonder and acknowledgement bloomed, light raising thoughtful aspirations amid complex shadows enshrined everlasting.